for another As Told by Becca. Today we are repotting this baby because it's gross. And the story we are doing is actually, sorry Mom, Number the Stars. That was one that I had read in like 6th grade. It's about a girl, a Danish girl named Annemarie Johansson, and her friend, it's during World War II, and her friend is Jewish, and so they were coming home from school one day and were stopped by some Germans or something, and they were a bit like they're tense, so they're shaken up by these scary big guys. Come out. Ooh, that is not good. Wow. So they're a bit shaken up by these, by the Nazis, and they tell their parents, and all the signs are showing that something bad's gonna happen, like certain shops are closing down that are owned by Jews, and stuff like that. So her friend Ellen, I think, Ellen's parents, they end up leaving Denmark, or getting smuggled out of Denmark before Ellen does. And they leave Ellen with Annemarie's family. And I'm just gonna rip that off. But, so, and Annemarie is like, oh yeah, she's gonna live with us, and fun kid stuff. But one day so Annemarie's older sister, Lisa, is dead. She died like the year before in a car accident. She got hit by a car. And so see these, I got mushrooms in the soil. It means it's good soil. Also, they're nitrogen fixers, so you don't need to like take them out. I just bury them in. But, so, one night, the Nazis come banging on the door asking Annemarie's parents, where are your neighbors? Because that's Ellen's family lived next door. And they're like, we don't know where they are. And then the Nazis get suspicious because Ellen has dark hair and Annemarie and the rest of her family are blondes. So, quick thinking, Annemarie's dad, he grabs and actually rips out a picture from Lisa's baby book, because when Lisa was born, she had brown hair. And he rips it out so that the date doesn't show. And that is good enough for the Germans, because they don't see the date and they're like, okay, alright, so she's just a weird kid. And eventually, it gets to the point where they're like, okay, Ellen's gonna have to go join her parents, because we can't keep hiding this for her. And Lisa's her fiance, who is still alive, comes and tells them what's happening, and he's part of the resistance, because the Danes really had a pretty big resistance, and they managed to smuggle the majority of their Jewish population out of Denmark before the Nazis could, you know, put them in concentration camps and kill them and stuff. So Peter, Lisa's fiance, talks to them and is like, okay, this is what's happening. So they decide, or well, Mrs. Johansson decides to take Ellen and Annemarie up to her uncle's house near a lake or something. It's a body of water, and he's got a boat and stuff. And so they go up there and have fun, and her uncle is like, oh, Aunt so-and-so just died. And Annemarie is like, we don't have an Aunt so-and-so. What's going on? And, but they're having a funeral, right? And there's a casket, you know, in the living room, and they're all, like, paying their respects and stuff, and, Annemarie's still so confused, and her uncle's like, sometimes it's easier to be courageous when you don't know. And she's like, oh, okay. And the Nazis come during this service with the caskets empty, because, spoiler, the family has been smuggling out Jews this way, through the bottom of this uncle's boat, and this is how they were going to get Ellen out. And so the Nazis come during the service, and they're like, open the casket, and Annemarie's mom was pretty quick thinking too. And she's like, oh, Aunt so-and-so died of highly contagious typhoid. And they're like, oh, okay, never mind. You're all good. And so that ends, and so the Nazis leave, and then the next day, Annemarie's mom needs to get this little small bag to the uncle at his boat. And she somehow broke her ankle, and so she has to have Annemarie go deliver it. And this was a 10-year-old. She's like, okay, I'm delivering this little thing to my uncle. She's a bit confused and a bit scared because, you know, there's still Nazis going up and down the road, and they actually end up stopping her. And she's pretty freaked out, but is able to stay looking calm. And so they check it. They're like, what's in the bag? And she's like, oh, I'm supposed to deliver it to my uncle. And they check it, and it's just a little handkerchief. And they're like, oh, okay, just go ahead. And so she brings it to her uncle. And he tells her, he's like, this was very important, because this is what is stopping the dogs, the Nazis' dogs, from smelling the people on board that were smuggling. Because I don't know, something must have been on it to mess up the dog's sense of smell. And so she's like, ooh, so she's proud of herself. You know, she did something very important, very courageous, something to help other people, including her friend. And so after her and her family go back home, because, I mean, they're fairly safe, they're not Jews, Peter, he ends up getting shot and killed by the Nazis for participating in the resistance. And then her parents end up telling her that her sister was actually part of the resistance, and her death wasn't an accident, that she was purposefully killed by the Nazis. And then, you know, she spends the rest of the time thinking, you know, hoping that, you know, Ellen and her family are okay where they are. And she has Ellen's Star of David necklace that Ellen asked her to keep for her, and she decides to wear it until Ellen is able to come back. And I mean, kind of towards the end, it's where the war is, like, ending, so she's thinking, okay, soon my friend will come back, and everything will be okay again, and until she comes back, I'll wear this for her. And that's pretty much it. I don't recall there being an actual, like, her friend coming back, because it kind of ends before that, but, I mean, I don't think it was based on a true story, but that is what was generally happening in Denmark at that time, because the Danes were they were a very united people against Nazi Germany. And fun fact, they actually were not allowed to fly the Danish flag, so they, out of spite, during that time, out of spite, they bred a certain type of pig that its colors matched the Danish flag, and so that was cool. Fun fact, yeah. And that's pretty much it. Go ahead and like and subscribe if you would, please. And comment down below what story you'd like to see next. Sorry, Mom, The Hobbit I am not ready for, because I do not want to do it a disservice, because Tolkien is my favorite. And Lord of the Rings, sister, that will take 3 whole episodes, okay?